Welcome, everyone. Welcome to ThursdAI. I'm going to unmute over here. Welcome, everyone, also on X Spaces. We are getting started on ThursdAI for November 21st. Welcome, everyone who tunes in on YouTube, on X Spaces, on X Videos. There's a few folks watching us on LinkedIn as well. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. With me, we have a bunch of friends, co-hosts of ThursdAI Spaces. Let me pull them up here. Welcome, folks. Let's say hi to Wolfram. Hey, Wolfram, how are you, man?
I am a bit tired, but I'm now excited about the show.
We have so much to talk about. I'm very excited as well. Hey, Nistan, data janitor. I see. I love it.
Hey, everybody.
We missed you last week, man. How you been?
Just cleaning data. That's why I'm
doing data janitor stuff. And then, yeah, welcome. Are you all set up over there? We can hear you, which is fine.
It's new.
And we also have a guest that we haven't had in a minute. Let me pull him up. Junyan.
Oh, nice.
Justin, how are you? Can you unmute and say hi to the folks?
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, I'm happy I'm back. Yeah,
Welcome,
I've been here for a long time. Yeah.
Folks who don't know who you are because you haven't been on the video stream yet, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm now the one of the tech lead of Qwen team. I am building Qwen large language models and multi-module models. Yeah, we are releasing Qwen 2.5 and Qwen 2.5 coders. So if you are interested in our models, yeah, please talk to me. Yeah.
So we'll definitely cover Qwen stuff this week. So welcome and
sure.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a while and we missed you. And let's start with the regular TLDR. We do a TLDR. We basically run super quick over everything that we're going to talk about, just in case you're like, should I listen to this? Or I know everything that happened. Trust me, it's really hard to keep up with everything. And also, there's also an opportunity for me to tell you guys, hey, we're going to talk about this and this. And for you in the comments to leave us comments and say, hey, actually, this just happened. In fact, we already have breaking news from today, which I'm going to show you in a second. And last week, we had breaking news as we had the show, like multiple breaking news, for which I have another button today, by the way, another surprise. And folks commented and said, hey, Alex, you missed this thing. It just happened, like literally right now. So last week it was that Gemini became #1 LLM in the world, and this came through comments in the show. So that was great. So let me present the TLDR kind of notes that I have, and I'm just gonna run through them. And then we're gonna actually start the show with open source. So hopefully you guys can see, those who can see. We're going to start with open source. There's not a ton of stuff in the open source this time, but we're going to start with Pixtral Large. Pixtral Large is Mistral's VLM. They released a VLM, 124 billion parameter open weights multimodal model for Pixtral Large. This is the second vision model from Mistral. Mistral released a bunch of stuff, and so we're going to talk about open source / open weights from them. They also upgraded Mistral Large, the LLM that they have, the kind of the flagship LLM, to 2411 with state-of-the-art reasoning and knowledge and coding capabilities. So we're going to cover that a little bit as well.
There are some of them. Sage Attention.
Sage Attention.
Smalltalk dataset from Hugging Face.
And then we're going to go to big companies and APIs, and then we're going to talk about multiple things. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about there. And Junyang and folks, this time we put in the big companies and APIs. Last time when you released a Qwen coder, Qwen was in the open source LLMs. But this time, because you released Qwen 2.5 Turbo via API only, Alibaba Qwen team released 2.5 Turbo with 1 million tokens, which is insane. So we're going to cover this, and Junyang, hopefully you're here with us to present it. And we're going to ask you a bunch of questions about how is it to be maybe the second company that allows 1 million tokens in the wild, which is crazy. Then we're going to talk about the other Mistral upgrades. Mistral became a product company, folks. They're no longer just a research company. They also have products, and their chat, Le Chat, now has a bunch of features. Some of them are very interesting. We're going to maybe showcase a few of them as well. And then the big whale surfaced and gave us R1 preview, which is super cool. Folks who have no idea what the whale means, the company DeepSeek, which we know and love, and we've been talking about their products for such a long time here on the show, they have surfaced and announced that they have a new preview called R1 Preview, which is a reasoning model, which comes very close to O1 on multiple benchmarks like AIME And there's even a demo. They didn't release this, but they promised to open source this at some point. And the benefit there is all the reasoning is visible. So unlike Oppo 01, you can see the reasoning, which is quite incredible. So we're going to actually like maybe test it out on the fly. And of course, how could OpenAI let Gemini have the title for more than a week? Because if you guys remember last time, this happened exactly like this. Gemini took the crown on LM Arena for exactly 1 week and exactly a week afterwards, which is about the time of how long it takes for LM Arena to calibrate. OpenAI released a new update, and OpenAI reclaims its throne. ChatGPT reclaims its throne at the LM Arena as #1 overall, including style controlled. And we're going to talk about the fact that basically nobody has a chance versus OpenAI, and they have a queue of releases that they're basically sitting on. So to summarize, OpenAI ChatGPT latest is back at being #1 LLM in the world by a significant margin, including specifically creative writing. A significant jump in creative writing. This comes a week after Gemini took the first position briefly for less than a week. For the second time, less than a week it happened. So that's quite incredible. I did see Logan like hint at some release today, and they love releasing during ThursdAI. So like we need to make sure that Logan Kilpatrick and the Gemini Google AI Studio is on notifications here. Hey folks, Alex here from the editing floor. As we were finishing the show, there was breaking news from Gemini team releasing Gemini Experimental 1121, a day after OpenAI reclaimed their throne as #1 with the ChatGPT 4.0.1120. Gemini released Gemini Experimental 1121, and LM6 Arena just updated that they reclaimed back what was stolen from them a day ago, #1 on the LM6 Arena and #2 in style control. Very good at coding, and overall hard prompts goes to #1, coding goes to #1, vision is #1 as well. So as we predicted, Google has some dog in them as well. So what you hear for the rest of the show is us not knowing that this is going to drop, but thinking about potentially this is going to drop and analyzing this. So back to the show. I think there's going to be plenty for us to talk about. In this week's Buzz, I want to tell you all about a very exciting announcement that we have coming in Weights and Biases very soon on December 2nd, and also tell you guys that we're going to be at AWS reInvent. And if you are there, I want to tell you how to meet us there. I'm not going to be there personally, but definitely we'll be there. Voice and audio. I lied last week, folks. Apparently, Suno V4 delayed, and I got like early access, and I was like, yay, it's out. And it wasn't out. But it's out now. So Suno V4 is out, and maybe we'll play another song. But I think that the one thing that I found incredible was the connection of a few things. So somebody just posted a song that the new creative writing that ChatGPT does, plus as the Suno high quality, this thing blew me absolutely away. And maybe we'll play an example of this. But yeah, Suno V4 is out, and I think that's it in voice and audio. And oh no, there's another thing in voice and audio called a new whisper variant called CRISPR Whisper, which I really love the name. So maybe we'll just look it up during the show and take a look at CRISPR Whisper. And the last segment, super quick before we get to the open source, is AR, art, and diffusion and 3D. And there we're getting two fairly big news, which I think we should talk about fairly quick. Breaking news from today, like 20 minutes before the show started. BFL Labs, Black Forest Labs, the folks who came out of Stability, the absolutely leading AI generation for now, Flux, announced Flux Tools today. Flux Tools, they announced a few tools specifically in Redux and Depth. Okay, they announced Flux Fill, Flux Depth, and Flux Redux. Fill is infilling and outpainting models, so you can take an image and outpaint it and add detail. Depth and Canny is structural guidance, so you can take an image and create an image that looks like the structures of that image, and that's pretty cool. And Redux is image variation and restyling. All of those things, usually people like train models around this, and now they released proper tools from the company itself, and they look quite incredible, the beating Midjourney, etc. And the other thing there is you can now use Flux Pro for free via Mistral Le Chat. And I think that's mostly what we had to talk about. Mostly what we're going to talk about. We didn't start the show yet. On ThursdAI for this week. And anything big that I missed, folks? Or we can get started. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Yeah? Should we get started with open source then?
Yeah, it's all good.
We have new extract. I'm going through Hugging Face recent models, and there is one we didn't talk about. I'm not sure if we talked about last week, but new extract 1.5 small
W-
for extracting structured information.
Oh, interesting. Could you send this in the chat here, in the private chat?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so folks, I think it's time for us to start with open source. And okay, this one is, I didn't spend that much time on this one, but let's start with open source. Open source AI, let's get it started. Open source on ThursdAI, let's get it started. And it's time for us to talk about Mistral. We already started the conversation, folks, so let's pick up from where we were. We're going to start with Pixtral Large and Mistral, and let's talk about those models. So let's start with just let's start with the LLM. And I think the biggest news is the VLM, right? Pixtral Large. Pixtral is the first multi-model from the French giant. There are a lot of people now. I saw they're hiring Pic, and there's like a lot of folks in Mistral realm, and they have released the new version of Pixtral in which they claim state-of-the-art. And we are going to mention the fact that some folks were not mentioned on the state of the art. But before this, we're going to get to the point of what they actually announce. So their announcement claims state of the art on Math Vista and Doc VQA v2 with some impressive numbers. They say that they extended Mistral Large 2 without compromising text performance, which is, I think, as far as, and Nathan, feel free to chime in here, as far as we've talked about VLM specifically, I think this is like a very important thing. A very smart backbone, a language backbone for image models is very important for the model to be able to do actual very good reasoning. 124 billion parameter open weights built on top of Mistral Large 2. We haven't, it uses the old 2407 as the language model. Wolfram just confirmed. Thank you. And understands documents, charts, and natural images. And this is how it looks. Let's add this to the stage super quick. This is the charts that they've posted. Let's open the conversation about this, folks. What do we think about this model?
Yeah, I checked the model card again, and they have a new model with the same version number as the Mistral model, but this Pixtral is based on the old Mistral, which is a bit confusing, of course, and a bit disappointing because the new one has a better prompt format with the system prompt, which works better with caching, which would be relevant if you have a lot of images you want it cached. But if the system prompt always changes with the messages, that is a bit of an issue. Technically, I hope they release one with the updated stuff. But this is great. It's a great model. And I haven't tested the visual model yet, but it's definitely on my list of the top vision models if I want to implement something with them.
So one thing to mention here is that we're going to get to the chat at the point or once we get to the products of Mistral, but this model is now available via their interface for free. So you can use, it's now built into kind of their chat interface, and it's available for free for you to use. You can upload images, multiple images, and it understands multiple images. And this graph is not very clear, the numbers percentage, but they compare themselves, at least in this chart, they compare themselves to Llama 3.2, 90 billion, and GPT-4o, and Claude Sonnet and Gemini 1.5, and they show very good performance. But this is a very big model comparatively, right? 8 billion parameter open weights, and they compare themselves. And on multimodal empty bench, they seem to show that they're beating the other models, significantly outperforming Llama. What else can we talk about this model? So let's talk about the fact that there's no comparison to Qwen VL. This is, I think, the elephant in the room.
It's more than that. It's more than that. Also, the 7B, the 8B is not compared to Qwen. And I don't want to say anything bad, but I think we should have got a comparison to Qwen, and from experience, you can say.
There's a meme now about this. I shared it on ThursdAI. It's like there's the duck is running after the person, and it's just saying why no Qwen on the board.
Yeah, so I've seen this from our community. I don't know what to
say now because I am on the stage.
Yeah.
Wait, Justin, say again. I think we lost you there for a second because network. You want to comment on the fact that Qwen models are not being added to the comparisons?
Yeah, I'm getting used to these things because Yeah, we used to be not compared by other people, so yeah, everything is normal to me. And also Momo is not compared as well. Yeah, Momo is also a very good model. So I have checked some benchmark performance. It is actually similar, and some of the benchmarks we are better, but I think it is generally maybe also the top tier performance models. It's actually good for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys explain that? If or maybe the questions are later, but how do you guys explain that? Like,
I don't know. I don't know why so many people miss the comparison with us. Maybe our scores are too high on the benchmarks. I'm not pretty sure about that. But I think we should investigate the more fundamental problems of today's VLMs. Now we are thinking about building the next version of our VLM. We have found that there are a lot of problems with our post-training, especially the instruction following problems, but we cannot evaluate it through the conventional benchmarks. So we found that these benchmarks are actually conventional. They are just evaluating some like visual understanding capabilities. But it is actually different from how we actually use the VLMs. So we are now thinking about these new problems, and maybe we are going to build some new benchmarks for better evaluating the VLMs. Yeah.
look, I got a lot of questions, but I think it's later, right, Alex?
You can ask. Yeah. We have Junyang here. You can ask. This is. I do want to cover Pixtral specifically, and not only the fact that Qwen wasn't compared here, because I think that it's still a very good model. Junyang, I think you'd agree to this, despite the fact that you guys were snubbed. This is a very open weights model. The license here I want to cover as well. It's a Mistral research license, but it's open weights. You can download this. Mistral is very, very well known in the community as well. The backbone for this is the Mistral large. It's also the text, without compromising the text performance, the text backbone here is very good. I used this model. I was very impressed. In fact, Junyang, and I think the thing that I love about Qwen...
Yeah, I saw the case. It is better than Qwen. I know the case. Yeah.
You saw the case, right? And I wanted to show this because I think that you guys also take criticism and then you just build better models. I actually think that this is a very interesting case. So let me show this again on the stream. This specific chart is a very interesting case for a VLM. So folks who are not watching, we're looking at the chart from Mistral where they have basically a bar chart. And the bars, they're not exact, right? So for a human, you can approximate, okay, the orange bar is between 60 and 70, and it's not all the way to the end. So maybe it's 64. I'm looking at the little M. Maybe this is 64, right? We can approximate, but this is like unreadable for the exact numbers. I threw this chart and let me actually see if I have the way to show this to you guys. I basically gave both Qwen VL and Mistral and Pixtral large this chart and the table of evaluations from the release of Qwen, and a very interesting thing happened. Each model said the other model is better. So the Qwen VL looked at the charts. It did hallucinate a few numbers because of the chart, and then it said, oh, actually, Pixtral is better at these numbers. Both of them understood the task incredibly well. Both of them understood the numbers incredibly well. And then Mistral, I think, said that Qwen VL is better on some charts. But I think that the Pixtral actually hallucinated less a little bit, which for the task, even though it said that the Qwen is better, I know it's a little bit confusing, but even though it said that Qwen VL is better, I think it happened on the actual task. I think it performed a little bit better. But I think it's a very difficult task for these. I don't know what I was expecting. Getting an estimate from this bar chart and saying, okay, on Doc VQA, for example, this orange is around 92, 93, and comparing that to a table over there in a different image, this is a difficult task, folks. We're getting to an impressive level of image understanding between two images. I'm not sure how this would have taken me maybe 3 minutes as a person to try and figure out. So I'm very impressed with both models, absolutely, for sure.
You know what's amazing is they only have a 1 billion parameter vision encoder on top because it's a 124B model. And the original language model it's based on is a 123. So now we have a 124B model. While when we look at Llama, we have a 70B and they added 20B to get to 90B for the vision model. So it's just a relatively small part that they added and that is doing so much.
For Pixtral, you mean?
Yeah, for Pixtral. So
that's what I wanted to say. it is impressive. This is one of the tasks that is impressive for a human. If you are as a human can extract this without code, for example, without counting pixels, it's a superpower, you can't, but it's a computer. Like the transformers can learn to count pixels. The reason it is hard for them, probably is because the number of parameters. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Probably because the vision encoder number of parameters, because it's not a task that actually requires too much reasoning if you just count pixels at the end. So I think this is due to, I don't know, you need to experiment to actually know, but I think this has to do with the number of parameters. But yeah, but those models are amazing. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah. And both
Absolutely.
performed very well. And just the fact that each model said the other one is better, I found just ironically really funny. All right.
I have 2 points still.
Yes, please.
First, I have a correction to make because the system prompt is there. So they have the old model it's based on. The old Mistral model, the Pixtral, has the system prompt and the template from the new Mistral model. So I don't know how they did it, but they did it. That is on the model page as well.
So the formatting did update, even though it's like the latest model, the formatting is upgraded. That's good to know.
It's strange, but apparently that is working for them. And what I also noticed, I quantized it to 2.75 bits. And in benchmarks, it was not as good. So I think we are at the point where the model is so saturated. When you quantize it down, the smaller you go, the more it loses. So that is actually a problem I'm dealing with at the moment.
I see. So I'm sorry, could you repeat how tiny did you get it?
2.75 bits per byte.
Okay.
So that is less than 3 bit, and it loses a lot. So in the benchmark, I did the MMU Pro benchmark, and I expected it to top my list of models, but it was at the bottom. So there was a lot of loss in there, and I have to check a bit more, compare with different quantization formats. But that was surprising. But we recently heard that the bigger models, they have so much data. When you quantize it, you lose a lot more than was the case with the older models. So that is apparently the case as well here.
All right, I think we're moving on in the open source because we have a bunch of other big company stuff to talk about. I do want to move us on, folks, because we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Yam, you mentioned Sage Attention. I'm looking now. I have missed it completely. But based on Philip Schmidt from Hugging Face, he talks about this being the next Flash Attention potentially. Would you do us the honors of explaining what the hell we're looking at?
Okay, basically, for those who don't know, there is something called Flash Attention, which basically is a trick for calculating one of the most resource-consuming function in transformers that everybody is using. And nowadays, there are 3 versions of it already. Basically, it is doing the same, but reduces the memory substantially. I'm really simplifying the whole thing now. Just to make, just for everyone to know, many of the things today, like long context and so on and so forth, are made possible because of things like Flash Attention, which theoretically are not that novel, but they are unbelievably clever engineering-wise, and they just unlock those things because you reduce the memory, you reduce the amount of compute, it becomes cheaper, so you can train models on longer context, on more tokens for the same amount of budget. Basically, we have a new kid in the block, Sage Attention, which is another one claiming to reduce to be 99% the same. It's not exactly the same computation like Flash Attention, but pretty much give you 3x speed up on paper. So I didn't try it yet. So I'm just pointing out if this is actually 3x speed up, this is unbelievably huge because based in simple language, it basically says all the models from now on are going to be 3 times better.
That's insane.
Like pretty much.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. So I'm just pointing it out because that's incredible. I just want to say I didn't try it yet because some of those things are not that simple to try. You need to adjust them to your architecture, to your setup, to so on and so forth. This is one of those things that they take a little bit. A little bit in AI is like tomorrow, but they take a little bit until the community is using them widespread. I don't know, until Hugging Face just integrated into their package and everybody's using it. But yeah, just pointing it out might be a really huge thing, and came out I think yesterday.
Yeah, given
Yeah.
that Philip Schmidt is the one who posted about this, tech lead and LLMs at Hugging Face, I think the Hugging Face will definitely integrate this in Transformers
Oh
library.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Nistan, go ahead.
I'm going to actually try it out because they did release a Python package for it. And normally I'm pretty dismissive about these claims because there's another paper every week. But the GLM models I actually use, it was like the first 1 million context model that I dumped stuff into, and I tried to extend it to 3 million. So this is a team that actually ships working products. So it's probably what they're saying. It's probably right. It's probably close.
I'm going to pause you,
improvements.
Nistan, because we have breaking news from open source. It's just like literally from right now, from our friends at Allen Institute for AI. We should get Nathan in here because he told me about something that's going to drop. But hey, first of all, breaking news. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. Breaking news from Allen Institute for AI. They're releasing Tulu 3. Again, as breaking news happens, we react as it happens. So we're reading through the release. A set of everybody loves state-of-the-art, set of state-of-the-art instruct models with fully open data, eval code, and training algorithms. This was sent by ByteProbe from the community, just commented. We love the community sending us breaking news. Keep doing this, folks, because as we're in the stream, sometimes we miss what's actually happening. Allen Institute for AI, they released a bunch of stuff before. We released Olmo and a bunch of stuff. We had them on the show multiple times before. We love their commitment to open source, full commitment to open source. State-of-the-art instruct models with fully open data, eval code, and training algorithms. They claim we invented new methods for fine-tuning language models with RL, with reinforcement learning, and built upon best practices in the community to scale synthetic instruction and preference data. And they show us some stuff. Let's try to figure out what this chart means. If eval performance, so we're seeing a graph of 4. I'm gonna actually add this to the space, folks who are looking at the space. So it's now pinned to the top of the space as well. 8 billion parameter and 70 billion parameter model. And we're getting the first column is average, so not super useful, but let's see. Junian Qwen is here, right here. It's comparing to Qwen 2.5, 72 billion. It's getting averaged, it's winning on average. On math performance, Qwen is still the leading, but they're getting 63 on math, which is leading pretty much everything besides GPT-4o, Claude, Haiku, and Qwen. That's quite impressive. They're beating Nemotron Llama and Llama 70B Instruct 3.1. 8 billion parameter looks like the most performant one as well. Look at this.
They are matching Haiku with the 70B.
They're matching Haiku with 70B.
We've seen another one last week. Which one was that? Let's see. Which one was that?
That match Haiku?
Yeah, we had this exact claim last week.
Haiku 3.5.
We can also try it out. So we'll do just that live on the stream, and then we'll learn more.
Guys, I just checked Hugging Face. They released all the math training data for this.
Yeah, this is the beautiful thing about Allen Institute for AI, that they release everything.
Oh yeah.
They release everything.
Yeah, they're on another level. They're actually open source. Like, I want
to invite Nathan in here. Let me pause the stream for a second. You guys, so hopefully Nathan will come on.
Yeah, I'll quickly say that the importance of releasing the data is that if people work on this model after, they can match the distribution of whatever they're doing to what the model already has. So that's what, or you can just release a base model and just let people fine tune it on their own, which is good too.
All right, folks.
They pushed them all out on Hugging Face. Like all the 4 data sets are out 25 minutes ago. I just checked.
So I want to say hi to Nathan Lambert. Hey, Nathan.
Hey. I'm going to be a little scatterbrained, but
no worries. Maybe folks who don't know you, Nathan, how about first, let's start with you introducing yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Nathan Lambert. I'm a research scientist at Allen Institute for AI, mostly focusing on post-training, but I also do a lot of broad industry analysis around language models generally, and specific focuses on open source as well. So I wear a lot of hats and a big mix of technical stuff and analysis and public facing stuff if you try to shift any policy.
And so you came in here, and in parentheses near your name, it says Tulu Breeder. And today, just literally right now, as we're talking about open source, as we're still covering the open source corner here in ThursdAI, somebody dropped in chat Tulu 3, and then we went and we just did a whole live reaction about Tulu 3. I'm assuming you have at least something to do with this. I don't think this is your first time. I believe we already chatted on ThursdAI, so maybe some folks know you, but definitely from the community, folks know you as well. How about you tell us what Tulu is all about? We already did reaction, but I would love to hear from the horse's mouth, if you will. Pardon me this metaphor. What did you guys release? What's special about Tulu? What excites you the most about this release?
Yeah, so largely there's two things. I think we've seen closed labs talk more and more about post-training and its importance. And at the same time, there's been a few academic phases of post-training that have mostly been summarized by like Alpaca et al. And then the DPO phase. And then today, even DPO models are fading. We don't see nearly as many models now. And when you compare those to like the Llama report, the Nematron report, or even the Apple Foundation model report, it's clear that the industry labs, when they are sharing anything, they are doing way more. So the motivation of this project is to like essentially have a fully open recipe of what industrial post-training could look like. There's definitely differences. Like we train on GPT-4o outputs because we're not a competitor with OpenAI. So Meta can't do that, but we release everything and we chose a set of skills. We mostly focused, I think, on math and precise instruction following. So IF eval were like really main evals here. And we've created data until we were better than Llama on the benchmarks that we care about. So I mostly think that this is when open recipes for post-training need to acknowledge that there's a certain sophistication that needs to be done, and people can't just take a big SFT set and call it the end of the day. Like you could do a lot with SFT, but depending on what your domain of interest, you need to do different things. We introduced a whole new RL algorithm that helps with these domains we care about because they have verifiable constraints. So it's really, there's a ton to process, and I will need to reread the whole paper, but it's trying to put it all in one place, which has come together nicely. I think even from AI2, some of our other papers need to be more like this. It's just like having everything in one place has so much value.
Yeah, so I want to highlight specifically, and every time you come in here, every time anybody from Ellen comes in here, I want to highlight when you guys say we open source everything, just how much everything is everything.
Oh yeah, go to the page in the paper. Page after the page after the table of contents lists most of the artifacts, which is really funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've opened the paper yet, but that'll give you a whole nother like what the hell is going on.
We're looking at. Let me open the paper super quick. I think I have this here. Yeah, paper. Okay, so let's walk through this.
So if you go to like page 4.
By the way, folks who are watching this, here's Nathan with a little green heart. What does the green heart stand for in the paper?
Like core contributor.
Amazing. So thank you so much for joining us as you guys release this. So we have Tulu 370B, 38B. You have the data set, the Tulu data sets.
Oh no, I would keep going. That's like the preview version. That's the subset.
Okay, subset.
So go after the table of contents. It's pretty funny.
After table of contents.
So this is all the stuff that we released. At least these are like the important things. There's more links in the paper.
So we're going through, so folks who are not watching this, we have the base model, which is based on Llama 3.1. We have the SFT models. We have the DPO models, which is the methods to train them. We have the final models, and then we have the code bases. The training code base, the evaluation, it's called OLMIS. I don't know how you guys call this one.
Yeah, we call it OLMS. It's based on another paper by AI2 that we're expanding in scope. So the code base was started for that, and we've expanded it to do chat, mostly because it's good to have for a junior student to have the naming be consistent.
We keep going. There's code for decontamination check, and then the preference data interface as well called BIR. So this is like code base. Everything is open source on GitHub. Then we have the data sets for instruction. So full mix SFT, task specific instructions, math, grade school math, etc., and Python code as well. So all of those are specific data sets that you curated for this. Could you explain like what's going on here?
Yeah. So these are all new things that we curated for this project.
Synthetic stuff as well, or is this?
Yeah. So personas refers to a paper from Tencent AI that I think where they like essentially have a new method for creating prompts, and then we use prompts We use the prompts to do synthetic completions. So it's a method for creating new prompts, and then we do the standard strong model completion for the instructions.
Amazing. So we keep going because it still keeps going. So there's also two models for preference mixes, 3.170B and 8B. Could you explain what preference mixture is?
So these are the mixes that we use at DPO. It's like the pairwise chosen rejected data for the DPO stage. So the training has 3 stages. It has this instruction tuning, then DPO preference tuning, and then RL with verifiable rewards to boost like math and IFFL. So the preference mix is like the normal DPO mixes. I think ultra feedback is a popular one. So this is based on the methodology of ultra feedback, but adding in on policy generations that closed labs have been doing.
And then we still keep going because this is you kept releasing. There's a bunch of other things. So there's also Tulu 3 performance instruction following, prompts ultra feedback, and wild chat ultra feedback, and RL with verifiable rewards. This is the new training system that you mentioned, right? Those are data sets for this new training system with like RL with verifiable rewards. I think on the main thread you guys mentioned this.
It's just the transparent background PNG struggles on Twitter, but essentially you need prompts that have a ground truth answer, and the data sets there really work with our code base, but it's a bit different than a normal instruction or preference data set because the Python code within the RL loop essentially like extracts the answer from the question, and then that's the reward for the RL signal. We didn't sell it too hard in this, but it's definitely O1E sounding, and there's already people on Twitter quote tweeting being like, this is why Claude Sonnet is so good, which I don't understand how they made that connection, but I find it really entertaining.
Wait, could you say this again for me slowly? I missed this, like O1 sounding. So we know that that's what they used for O1 kind of reasoning stuff, but this, I'm missing the connection here.
O1 is trained with a large scale RL, and I mostly would point you to my blog post, but I think a lot of that is through having some sort of verifier on the outputs. O1 is not trained with the traditional preference models.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so we should point folks to your blogs because they're incredible, and folks should definitely give Nathan Interconnects AI a follow as well if you want to shout it out. But I think that we're focusing on this Tulu release. Nathan, this is incredible. I want to bring up Wolfram.
Yeah, just wanted to say thanks for being really open source, because this is the open source category, but most models are just open whites, which is good. But really opening the dataset and publishing everything, that is not the norm. Big thanks. And I wanted to ask, what is motivating you to be so open? So maybe that is inspiring for others, or your reasoning behind that.
Largely, I just think on the spectrum of what like AI needs to ensure good outcomes. I think good outcome means not controlled by huge companies that are bigger than the government, not having existential risk, and not having like any of the problems we hear about for AI. I think being more open than we currently are is more likely to change them. I think I'm not an absolutist. Like I don't have an open source software background. It's just pretty clear that a lot of these companies are, especially in the previous years, there was more messaging of trust us, it'll be okay. But I think until we have more information, like being more open is the only way to have more people involved that can actually understand where this technology is going. So there's a much longer form versions of that, but it's that the current types of AI are transformative technology, and we need to get them right, and more openness seems to be needed.
Thank you.
We absolutely applaud you guys. Absolutely. Every time that something happens, we usually like hyper focus on state of the art here, because every week if we talk about models that don't hit state of the art, then okay, why even bring this up? But Alan models usually, this case is easy because this is you hit sort of multiple things. But even if they're not sort of, we still mention them and we talk about them. So this is great. Yam, do you have any comments, any things you want to?
First, thank you. Like there's 3 pages and every single thing on them is crazy important. Like all the experiments, the artifacts, like what did you try, decontamination, it's absolutely crazy. Like 73 pages that you really need to read, every single one of them. First, thank you. And second, I can ask tons of questions, but let's just summarize everything. Give us some intuition, because as someone that worked on this a lot, intuition for what makes models really good. from your perspective, like after trying a lot of things, just some intuition?
It's high quality data on the domains that you care about. It's not that surprising. I think for the previous Tulu work, Tulu 2.5, we were going deep on this like PPO versus DPO thing. And by doing PPO right, we didn't even end up using PPO for preference tuning just because like we were moving fast and finalizing models this week. But like you only get like 1% if you do more on just algorithmic stuff. So all these papers on new DPO algorithms, et cetera, like you're not going to get more than 1% of performance. But if you make new data changes, you're going to get like 10x that pretty easily. And whenever we figured out how to get the data, we saw immediate improvements, which is like this persona method. And then just the like on policy preferences method. I think we compared ultra feedback in the paper as a baseline, which is like the thing we were always using in the past. So it's not surprising. I think there's a big opportunity still to just take the Tulu data and do better filtering. Like we didn't have somebody like leading filtering, and I know Meta, like all these other closed labs will have many ways to do this. So there's obviously ways to keep improving it, but it's not that complicated. It's just a lot of small details over time.
From what I saw, you didn't train on such a large data set. What can you tell us about the size, for example? Because the quality, I think everyone agrees. You need high quality data. What do you think about the size?
We did about 1 million instructions, which I actually think is more than you need. I think when you do more filtering, you don't actually need more than that. And I've heard from people, I got some advice from people in the industry. You can go look at the acknowledgements, but some people are pretty much, you definitely don't need more than 1 million. And I think that it's just, as you get better ones, you can do less and less. I don't think you're going to go below like 100K or something for general models, but I do think that this is a rough sweet spot in terms of how many instructions you have at SFT. For DPO, we had 300K prompts, which we probably could keep climbing. It was climbing a lot in the last few weeks, but it's so new to build preference data rather than instruction data as people know what they're doing.
All right. Thank you. I think, yeah.
Were the summarized reasoning chains from the wild chat responses? I've been using that a lot, by the way, the free O1 and O1 mini wild chat to do the data, but it does also return the summarized reasoning chains.
Oh, I don't think we have O1 responses. All of our wild chat data is from GPT-4 responses or prompts or responses.
Oh, okay. So that I saw that as a separate space from Allen Institute, actually. Okay, so that data set is not.
Yeah, it's a separate project.
That's a separate one. Okay.
Folks, we want to be mindful of Nathan's time. And Nathan, thank you so much for jumping on super quick. Very impromptu. Nathan, is it live right now? I was like, yes, live right now. Come in and talk to us. I really appreciate your time. Nathan has dumped a bunch of his other thoughts, if you're interested, in interconnects, Tulu 3. And as the lead author of this paper, I'm sure that there's a bunch of other stuff that is very interesting. Nathan, I think the one thing that we often do here is let people shout out their stuff, but the one thing that I love to do is like letting people give a stage of highlighting the other folks who worked on this. Do you wanna take a second and shout out a few of the folks that worked on this with you? And
you could go look at the author list, but I think there's like the core people who are people implementing the most of it in addition to us. So I'll just read the names, and it's like Jacob Morrison, applying to PhD program soon, Valentina Piatkin, wants to be professor, Costa Wong, engineer on the team who built most of the infrastructure. If you look at the training code, Hamish Iveson from previous Tulu models, Faiza Brahman recently joined from the Mosaic team, did most of the synthetic SFT data. LJ Miranda did most of the scaling preferences. And then there's a few advisor roles like Yizhong Wang, who's been around for a long time in this kind of synthetic data space, Pradeep Desigi, and Hannah, who my manager that I barely can pronounce her name, professor at UW. But there's even more people. It's like a 24-person author list, so I'm not going to read all of them right now.
But a huge shout out to all these folks for this massive release. And yeah, I'm sure that this is very hard to react to these news as we haven't been able to actually test the model itself.
There is a demo. You can go play with the demo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
I've been playing behind the scenes. This is why I was so quiet. There's a demo, which is also, by the way, very welcome when folks release something and there's, oh, here's the model, go download it and play. That's not often, even though it's easy to do lately, it's not often super helpful. The demo is at playground.allen.ai.org. I'm just going to put it in the chat as well for folks. And folks should definitely definitely go play and tell us in the comments what they think, and give Nathan comments on interconnects as well. Nathan, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your time. We're moving on because we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. I really appreciate it. We'll add you to the publication as well. Folks, you can find Nathan on X at Nathan Lambert, and probably on Blue Sky as well lately, and interconnects, and definitely give him a follow. Nathan, thank you so much for coming up, man. I appreciate it.
See you guys later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, this is the epitome of ThursdAI, when we have breaking news and then suddenly folks from the Broke the News come up and talk. So I really appreciate Nathan's time. We do have to move on, though, because we're at this for almost an hour and kind of 10 minutes, and we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Not before. Yeah, I think we need to move on to like big companies and APIs. But usually around this time, I'm moving to this corner called This Week's Buzz. So I'm going to let my co-host like a 5-minute break while I talk about weights and biases stuff. And then we're going to be back here talking about big companies, APIs. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about. We'll start with Qwen. So Junyang, don't leave anywhere, because we're going to start with the 1 million context in a few minutes. So we're going to start with This Week's Buzz. Welcome back to This Week's Buzz. Again, my name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist here with Weights and Biases. Weights and Biases is the company that brings you the show from week to week. I work at Weights and Biases for over a year now, and even though the show has started like on its own, Weights and Biases has been keeping us going for a long time. And This Week's Buzz is the corner where I talk about everything that I learned in Weights and Biases, and basically updating you about our events and our programs, and basically mostly about Weave. Weave is a LLM observability toolkit that we have, observability and evaluation toolkit that we have with Weights and Biases. And I think the main thing that I want to cover this time is basically that I mentioned this before, but I'll share with you like super quick that our docs have now updated to JavaScript and TypeScript. Folks have been asking me how this works, and I just want to show you like super quick. We now support Python and TypeScript as well. So npm install Weave. If you haven't given this a try, it's very easy to do. You just import the Weave library, you init the Weave, and then you start tracking. I want to call out specifically the cookbooks area that we have. It's very easy. Like many people have asked me like, hey Alex, okay, like you talk about observability, you talk about all these things, how to actually get started. So the easiest way to get started is, I'm gonna add this banner here, 1 second. It's called, we always send people here, 1b.me/weave. And you can see this banner right here. This is the easiest way to get started. And the easiest way, so documentation is like when you want to know everything that's going on. Cookbooks is where you want to get started. It's a very simple thing. You click on Open Collab, and you basically, all you need is 1B API key, which you can get by registering. It's free. And then you basically run the collab and you get started. It's that simple. What you get in return is this beautiful dashboard that kind of looks like, I haven't shown this to you last time. So let me just show this to you like this. You get in return is this beautiful dashboard full of like traces of everything that you ran with your LLM on production. This is very helpful for folks who, folks often ask me like, Alex, okay, like I can see logs on production, I can trace logs. That's fine, yes, but we show you beautiful things like how much time a thing took, how many tokens, and how much did it actually cost you. I think that those are very important metrics. Not to mention that one of the things that we do is we show you a breakdown of the JSON structured output, for example, in like very nice output like this. So you can drill down and see, okay, how many steps you had. For example, this is a call for our internal app called Winston, and it has a bunch of like functions calling. So you can see each function that it wanted to call and exactly the reason why it wanted to call this, for example. So this breakdown is really actually really helpful once you debug an application. And so with this said, I'm going to show you a bunch of other stuff in Weave going forward, but I wanted to just call out a specific thing that's going to happen around the show with this week's Buzz. So as you saw, we have a new opening for this week's Buzz. Our team is going through a little bit of a change. We're now the AI team at Weights and Biases. We're doing growth, and we're going to focus. We have an internal sprint. We're going to focus on specific areas every 2 weeks. And my goal on this team is going to be externalizing the learnings of what the team is going to go through and bring you here a conversation and learnings from our team to basically to chat with you about what's going on. We work with a bunch of companies internally, and they ask us, because we have this tool, people asking us like, hey, how do people actually evaluate things on production, how they trace, how they do observability. So we keep our ear to the ground with how companies actually build LLM on production, LLM applications, not the actual models like we here talk about in ThursdAI. And I want to be the bridge that connects what's going on inside these companies to you guys over here. And so this week's buzz is going to take a little bit of a change. So I will still keep you up to date with events. I will still keep you up to date with the changes in Weave, etc. But I will definitely change phase into, I will maybe bring some of my colleagues, for example, to talk about the thing we're hyper obsessing about. And I'll give you a little hint, the thing that we're hyper obsessing about next week, and I'm going to bring, I think Morgan is coming next week. We're going to talk about guardrails, LLM guardrails. This is a new thing that many companies really want to implement, and many of them have no idea how to implement. Some of them try to and then they fail, or there's a bunch of buzzwords that are going into the industry, so we're going to try to break down the buzzword of guardrails as well. If this is a topic that interests you, if you're building with LLM on production, you have issues or troubles, whatever, even if you don't use Weave, by the way, it's fine if you use something else. Obviously if you use Weave, it's better, but even if you use something else, please let me know if guardrails is a topic of interest to you. If you have any questions about this, I'm going to cover guardrails next week. Please let me know what is a topic of interest to you for next week's buzz. So this has been this week's buzz, and now we're back to the regular programming. And we're back. And by the way, Suno did this transition song. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the way the Suno did this is I gave it a little bzzz of a B, and I just asked it to extend the song, and I love it. I just absolutely love this. All right, so we're back, folks. We're back to talk about big companies and LLMs. We have to start talking about this. We've been at here for an hour and 20 minutes. Obviously, we had Nathan from Allen Institute for AI who talked to us about the amazing Tulu 3 release, which is incredible because we had the deep conversation. But now we have to move on. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is Qwen 2.5 Turbo. Julian, do you want to tell us about the fact that you guys released a model with 1 million context window this week? And let's not skip this. I think it's very important. You want to give us a little intro, like what's going on? Not only that, it's super fast as well. So you want to give us like an announcement?
Yeah, sure. Weeks ago, we just released the Qwen 2.5 coder, and then this week we released another one, but this one is temporarily through API. I'm not sure it will be open source or not, but it supports 100 million token context for this API. We have done this for several months because
1 million, right? Not 100 million.
Yeah,
1 million tokens. Yeah,
1 million tokens for long context understanding. Yeah, just understanding over 1 million tokens. Yeah, at most. Yeah, we extended from previously we support the context length of 128,000 tokens, and then we extended to 1 million tokens. And we have some efforts in both performance and model performance, and also the inference efficiency. So you'll find that the token to the time to first token, we drop it from 5 minutes to 1 minute. So it will be relatively fast to output the first token when you input a very long context into it. So you don't need to wait that long. And our API price is very cheap as well. Yeah, and this is it. So if you check the block, you will find that our performance in long context evaluation, ruler, LB eval, our performance is very competitive. And for the needle in the haystack, we achieve 100% accuracy. And this is something relatively easy in comparison with LB eval and long bench chat or something like that. And we also find that our model is also competitive in the short text tasks. For example, there are a lot of models that are supporting long context, but it does not perform well in short text tasks, which we often test. Yeah, but this time we also perform well in the short text task. Yeah, it is generally like that. This is what we are basically doing. We are not sharing the technical details temporarily, but later we are now writing the Qwen 2.5 tech report, so we will share more details about it as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome to know.
API. Yeah.
That's awesome to know, because as you saw, I added this in the big companies and APIs area where we still talk about exciting stuff that happens. And this is, to me, is very exciting because right now, as far as I know, Gemini is the only place that offers 1 million tokens that I can use, and this is the only second one. Folks, Wolfram
Yeah.
Nistan, I'm not aware of any other API that allows me to use 1 million. As far as I'm aware, Cursor bought SuperMaven, and when they bought SuperMaven, they said SuperMaven is the only other outside of Google place that supports more than 1 million, but it's not that I was able to use SuperMaven for 1 million context.
Cloud Enterprise allows up to 500K. And,
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's what all they're getting at. But you can, I think there is one place that does offer, maybe Hyperbolic still offers a GLM 9B. Actually, no, they don't. I will check. Yeah,
But this is like
GM might be 1 million is open source. Yeah,
open source.
Yeah,
but as far
that's
as I know, this is like the only product API wise that can support like long context outside of Gemini, which is like a big deal. And shout out for this. But as you said, like you're not sharing the technical details as of yet, Julian, correct? So I'm not going to press you on those, but I will ask you, this is coming. So I wanted to highlight this ruler benchmark. We talked about this ruler benchmark before. Do you want to maybe give us like a sentence or two of why this is important? I think we mentioned this before. It's from NVIDIA, and it shows effective context, correct?
Yeah, it is actually another synthetic data, but it is something like better in the original needle in the haystack. Yeah, there's something that is more difficult than the original needle in the haystack because it includes some tasks like finding multiple needles in the irrelevant context and answering multiple questions. So I think it is relatively more difficult than like the traditional needle in the haystack because we need some harder evaluation for us to test it. And we have done quite a lot to achieve satisfactory performance internally in this ruler evaluation. And we also have evaluated like other evaluations like LB eval, the maximum context length is around 256,000 tokens. Yeah, although these are the existing long context evaluations, but their maximum context length is actually not quite long. So we have mentioned the maximum context length. No one is achieving 1 million tokens. Yeah.
You mean in the evaluations, you mean?
Yeah.
So it looks like, folks who are listening, we're looking at the blog, and there's 3 evals that this has been tested against. Ruler eval, LV eval, which is maximum context length of it is 256K, and long bench chat, which is preference alignment for tasks for long context, and maximum context here is 100K.
And it's not that long.
Yeah, it's still not that long. It's 10% of the maximum of what you just released. And it's quite incredible to understand there's not enough evals for this like very impressive like long context tasks, which I use.
Wow.
We're looking forward for you guys releasing this at some point in open source as well, as I know you guys love open source and at some point technical details as well. Jiang, thank you, and feel free to stay with us and like comment on the other stuff. I want to run super quick through the Mistral upgrades, but I think before this, I think it's more important before this. Yam, I think you would love to chat about this as well. OpenAI decided to not let Gemini be up on the LM6 arena at the top. And folks, we can specifically announce now that ChatGPT is back at being #1 LLM in the world after all but a week that Gemini was up there. Last week we were here and it was breaking news. We were like, yeah, Gemini was that 111 something, 1115, I think, is the king LLM in the world, and it's this, and it beats ChatGPT on this thing and this thing. And then I think Sam Altman has like a little buzzer in his office that something on LM Arena beats ChatGPT, and then he's released the next one. And I think they have a queue of just updates, incredible updates. What do you think? I saw your post about this, specifically about the style control. What do we think about this model? Wolfram, I want to hear from you as well. And folks in the audience, please give us comments as well. ChatGPT for our latest 2024 1120 is now the #1 LLM in the world overall in LM6 arena, specifically highlighted in creative writing with over, I think, almost 40 points over in ELO ranking over the previous 111.
This time I believe it. When that's the start, I was still using Sonnet. Now I did a comparison. I have a UI where you can do the same request to multiple models. And I agree now. I think I will switch, probably. I definitely want to use it more, so I will make it my main model. Yes.
Oh,
it's
great.
What's
your take on this model and this switch?
Altman, we all understand what you're doing. Please just release the best one. Just release the best one. Show us how far are you guys. Like, it is absolutely impressive. Just release the best one you got. Seriously.
I mean, we get it. This
Yeah,
part.
we get it. But anyway, I didn't try it for code yet. I do feel that on chat, it is notable. It is much better. A bit about the style. For those that don't know, it just happened that at large scales, we humans are biased towards different styles, you can say. So measuring how good a model is, even with human judges, at the end, it doesn't work as out of the box. Because when you take too many humans, at the end, we are a little bit biased towards style. Laying of the chat, we like longer and structured answers, even if they are wrong. You do feel this bias on large benchmarks like LMCs. They came up with a clever method to de-bias the data. It's pretty simple statistically speaking. I'm not going to go into it, just read the paper if you want. But there is a different score on the LMCs arena that it's called, I think, just style control.
Overall, with style control,
yeah. Basically, it correlates a little bit better with what you think to be like a sophisticated behavior. Like you do see that models like Sonnet or powerful models are ranked higher on this specific style controlled score. So getting to be the first on this metric is huge, is impressive. And it is, I mean, it is huge because it's like a week later. Like, how did they even come up with this? They probably just have the best models on the side and just wait for the moment to release them. Otherwise, there is no way to explain this. Anyway, I really like this because, yeah, O1 is a really good model. No one has any doubt, but it takes time. You prompt it and it just goes to think, and I want the answer now. So if you give me 4.0, which is better, I'm absolutely going to try it, even just for speed. So yeah, really exciting to see. I really like the war at the top between all the major players. We are the ones benefiting from that because we get better models.
Absolutely. So folks, yeah, sorry, go ahead. I'm finished.
No, just want to say that we are the ones benefiting from that. We are getting better models from this fight. That's it. So,
yeah,
and it's super fast, like you said. You mentioned speed, so it writes longer responses on average, a little bit longer, not too much, but it's blazing fast. So it was done with a long response before the other models were even at the middle.
Yeah, I just want to highlight how big of a jump they show in the creative writing. This is like massive, and definitely I saw a few folks like comment already on how good this creative writing is. One of the things that hopefully we'll get to show you guys at the end of the show is somebody highlighted how they create lyrics, and their test for creative writing is write like Eminem, and specifically his own specific rap style where he does lyricism inside and like very specific things, and he did that, and then he gave it to Suno, and Suno just performed this like insane thing. All right, we're moving on to Mistral. We have a bunch of stuff still to talk about, and then we also have Eric joining us to chat about something as I gave some hints in the beginning. What's up, Eric? Let's say hi to Eric first. What's up, Eric?
Hello. Hey, good to see you all. Thanks for having me on.
Feel free to, we're still in the regular programming. We'll get to chat with you in a bit, but feel free to hop into the conversation with us if you have something to comment. We're moving on to Mistral, folks. Mistral upgrades to a product company. Let's take a look at the chat super quick. We talked about Mistral in the open source, and then Mistral is now, I think I saw the CEO, Arthur Mensch, he talked about it's not super simple to move into a product company, but Mistral is now a product company as well. So a few things that Mistral now has in their kind of interface as they're trying to compete with kind of chat GPT, let's say, in Europe. First of all, they have web search. So they enabled web search, so Mistral can now ground its answers in truth. So we can say, what's the latest ThursdAI.news episode about? So supposedly it's going to go and search the web and try and ground this. I haven't tested this well, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's wrong, but it's pretty good. I think it pulled the wrong one, but it does grounding. So we can see, it goes to podcast, it finds some stuff. It's quite cool. The other thing that they have here is, I wanted to bring up, is image generation. And folks, this is for free, by the way. You can sign up to LeChat. What's the URL? Chat.mistral.ai. Chat.mistral.ai. You can ask for image generation. And unlike GPT, where I think you get like DALL-E for free, and DALL-E is not that good at this point. On X, only if you pay for premium, you get Grok, and Grok is using Flux. This is Flux Pro for free. I think this is the only place on the web where you can get Flux Pro for free. You can say, generate an image of a cute robot podcast host with the text ThursdAI. And Flux is really good with text, so we should get a nice image out of this as well. And the last thing that they have, while this image generates, it should be super quick. Look at this, ThursdAI, almost there, ThursdAI. So we got a nice image, but it's free and it's Flux Pro, and you can ask it to keep going. So the model is actually like very familiar with Flux. The last thing that I want to highlight is this canvas thing. Very similar to how ChatGPT has a canvas. If you guys know that you can ask for a canvas in ChatGPT, you can add it together with the bot. This is a hybrid between the canvas in ChatGPT experience and the artifacts in Claude a little bit. So you can ask the chat, let's say canvas. You can ask for something like this. You can say, create canvas that uses PyScript to execute Python in my browser and does some simple loop. So you can ask it for something like this, and then you can see the chat. It will open a canvas area on the side of the chat and start writing code in there. And once it writes the code, you'll have a button here that says, hey, show preview. And once you show preview, they basically run this code. You hit show preview, and you can see the code run. In this case, we had an error. We can paste the error, obviously, and say, hey, there's an error, blah, 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 blah. But you can see the code run. Here's the code running. Oh, and actually, I press play, and the code actually run. So this canvas thing, it obviously works with JavaScript, right? So I just generated JavaScript stuff. So very similar to how Claude Artifacts works. Very cool for Mistral, very for free, and definitely go and play with this. So shout out for Mistral for like releasing a bunch of stuff for us this week. Also, they have upgrades for PDF uploads and understanding. That's also new for them. And I think that's basically it.
Their agent integration is nice as well, where you can create your own characters and use them with an ad. And the only thing I'm missing is that you can't combine the stuff, do Canvas and do a web search at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. You can do web search and image generation, but Canvas is like its own thing. So you cannot combine. I agree. Agents is not a new thing for them, and their agents is not really agents, but Wolfgang, you're right. It's like more like GPT's type thing in LeChat, but it's pretty cool. You can load them with a bunch of content and then use all these features with like your preloaded agent with a bunch of context as well, which is pretty cool. I think the context length is 128 or so. Still, but the fact that it's free, I think, is quite incredible. So folks who don't want to pay for ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever, you can get to Mistral. Moving on, as we need to run a little bit. Oh, they called this canvas Le Canevas for some French reason, which I love. Le Chat and Le Canevas. Moving on. DeepSeek. I think we have to talk about DeepSeek. Yam, have you seen this? DeepSeek R1.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the whale. Let's talk about the whale. Folks, you want to present this one?
Yeah, there isn't a lot to present. DeepSeek are incredible time and time again, and they basically replicated the results of O1 pretty much in French time compute.
Which is insane. This is absolutely insane what we're talking about. DeepSeek is a Chinese company. They call them the whale giant, the silent whale giant, because their logo is a whale. And every time that they come back, people are like, when does the whale resurface? Because the whale bros, as they're known on the Twitter sphere, they don't engage with the community too much. They post something incredible, and then they go back and they start working, and they have a bunch of incredible folks in there. And DeepSeek R1 Lite preview is basically their replication of O1, and supposedly reinforcement learning, inference time compute thing, absolutely incredible on the numbers. Let's talk about some numbers.
Don't know a lot. Look, we don't know a lot.
Basically nothing, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know a lot. We don't know if it's going to be open source. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they say anything?
They said, yes. They said open source models and an API coming soon.
Great. One thing we do know is that they show you the tokens, which is a new thing.
Yes.
You don't get this on O1 of OpenAI. But yeah, pretty much just like you said, DeepSeek are not playing games. Everything they drop is crazy. And they also do it. They are also out GPU'd, you can say, out computed by all the others. So they are doing this with less compute. So it's not just brute force. It's very sophisticated. All the things that they are doing are all in the papers. and very impressive, telling you everything that they do and really crazy good models.
I want to call out
again.
something.
So,
yeah. One thing I want to call out is because you guys know Dylan Patel from Semi-Analysis. Dylan called out in a quote tweet and said, DeepSeek has over 50K Hopper GPUs to be clear. People need to stop acting like they only have the 10K 100 cluster. They have a mega collect team, but they have some GPUs. This is, and he is in his sources. I don't know if his sources are correct, but he did add some color to this.
I think they are.
Yeah?
Like time and time. Yeah, pretty much when he tweets something like that, it's probably correct.
Yeah.
Like,
so
sources.
we trust Dylan on this, but they still have like very cracked, like super cracked team on ML research. And we've seen this time and time again. So I wanted to show like how the reasoning looks. Because there's now a button on chat.deepseek.com. It's called Deep Think, which I love the pun. You hit it and you have 50 messages per day. And do you guys remember this week when it was shown to us that Gemini, the new Gemini, gets close to 01 in reasoning, and we tried this like very complex ice cube? Yeah, remember you said you barely can fix this one? Fairly complex like riddle. Beth placed 4 ice cubes and a frying pan at the start of the first minute, blah, blah, blah. So now we can take a look at this and see the actual reasoning of this model. It still doesn't get it wrong, by the way. This is like a very still complex problem for this, but we can hit send, and then we can see the thinking process here. And it starts with, I'll just read it out to you guys because some of you are listening. It says with like, all right, let me try to figure this out. So Beth is putting ice cubes into a frying pan over 4 minutes. And there's some information about the average number of ice cubes, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, all right, let's see. She puts 4 ice cubes, the average number of ice cubes. Blah. So basically it's just, you can see the thinking. And it's incredible. And I love this. And it thinks for a while. This one thought for 17 seconds, and then it arrived at a wrong answer. And it's very interesting because you can tell it like, hey, no, the answer is actually 0. Answer is actually 0. And then you can see it thinking about how it went wrong again. And it's just something so fun about seeing just the raw thought. And we've been waiting for something like this.
It's more than that. It's more than that. If this is going to be open source, if the paper is going to be out, we are going to get, because look, people are mistaken about the things. It's not just chain of thought. You can add chain of thought to whatever answer that you want and just train your model, but then it's going to just come up with wrong chain of thought, and it's not going to be better. To do this to the point where it actually improves the model, you need to do pretty sophisticated things, pretty clever things, and it takes a lot of experiments, and you need to try a lot of things. There is a reason OpenAI has taken like a full year of development until they got 01.
I hear 2 years. That's what I heard from folks inside.
Okay,
yeah.
So 2 years, yeah, even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a reason for that. If it was just chain of thought, they would just create dataset and train the model. It's much more than that. So yeah, just to know what went through into the model in the process is amazing on its own. So yeah, crazy. Anyway.
All right, folks. So I think that the craziest thing that I saw here is the confirmation of the scaling laws of the future, which is like the test time, inference time compute. OpenAI, when they released 01, they showed the scale where the new scaling laws are potentially the inference time compute laws, where the more inference you give the model to think, and they have the knob that they can turn and say, hey model, think for a longer time. And they actually show that like the model, the answers are predictably better with more time thinking. The whale bros basically confirmed this theory on their own. They showed this graph where the more time they have, the average number of thought tokens per problem, it rises and gives like a better solution as well. So basically another confirmation for this like new basically scaling law. So we now have the 2 scaling laws. We have the keep scaling the model sizes and they get better. And we also now have this test time compute, or inference time compute as they call it, where the more time you get the model to think, the better answers it gives you. And this is now another confirmation, like Yam said, if this when this comes to open source and the code is getting released, this is incredible. It's going to blow up. Like models will be reasoning. We'll see speed ups. We'll see Georgi Gerganov come in with some CPP magic and make it even faster. We're going to see like a bunch of open source, like incredible stuff here. So shout out to Whale Bros. It's incredible. They're getting 52.5 on AIME. So this is 01 preview got 44%, 44 score. This is just absolutely massive. R1 Lite, shout out to DeepSeek. We definitely had to highlight this. I think we covered most of the big companies' APIs releases. The only thing that we didn't cover is MS Ignite. There were some Microsoft announcements about products. I don't think super interesting to our audience. If folks in the audience want to let us know what's the most important Ignite update for them, let us know. I think in the interest of time, I want to chat with Eric before we drop, and then we'll get to voice and audio as we close, and then we have the BFL, the Flux tools super quick. Yeah, in the interest of time, because we have a guest, I want to make sure that I'm like treating our guests correctly. Welcome, Eric. Let's do an introduction, and then folks, we'll continue we'll have one more thing after the interview to tell you about before we let you go for the rest of the day. Let's chat, and we'll do some shows. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I appreciate you reordering the schedule. You didn't have to do it though.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I do want to talk about Bolt because we mentioned this on the show briefly. And then very briefly, because I did want to talk to you about this, I didn't go into Bolt and actually show this to people here on the show.
Breaking news, new Gemini. Breaking news. Oh,
okay. Eric, you're going to have to wait because I have a whole breaking news
thing.
That's fine. Because breaking news is breaking news. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. I hope you guys saw the little shog thing in the breaking news thing that I added. If you didn't see this, you have to jump on the watch stream. Yam, you wanna give us? Yeah, I see. I think Lincoln, one of our core members of the community, that always like on the finger on the pulse. We get new Gemini experimental. It looks like Sam is not the only one who has a bag of tricks.
Let's try Gemini, the new one.
Gemini experimental 1121, which is a new one that showed up in Google AI Studio. I don't know if we have anything to necessarily say about this just yet before we go to the interview, but I do want to show you this one conversation with Logan and Jimmy Apples. How do I get this conversation? Because I think this is the only thing that I can like actually show you that will highlight what we're talking about here. Here's the one thing that I wanted to show. Logan just tweeted yesterday, as the news dropped, where OpenAI is like taking over Gemini at number 1. Logan just tweeted Gemini, and got 600 likes. And then Jimmy Apples, the prolific whatever leaker, I don't know what Jimmy is at this point, it basically said, does Google have the dog in them anymore, Logan? Because the dog would drop something tomorrow. And Logan replied with a little like doggy icon. So it looks like Gemini just dropped something. I don't know if we have any details though, because Logan didn't post, but we now have this in LM Google AI Studio.
I have some bad news because it failed the Ice Cube challenge.
Ice Cube challenge
bro,
is really...
I failed this challenge, bro.
Yeah.
But the new GPT did it right, and Claude Sonnet as well.
Really?
Really?
They gave 0.
Yeah, while we were talking, I was running it through 3 models, and the new GPT, it failed once, and then it got it right. Sonnet got it right all the time, and this is the 3rd run of the new Gemini, and 3 times failed.
Yeah. Okay. So, folks, give us a try. Run this model a little bit and tell us what you think about 1121. As far as I predict, there's going to be a new model. Maybe it's already run in the arena for a little bit, but I don't know if we're going to get a lot of news about what it's good at. The only thing I can show you is that the token count is still 32,000. So it looks like it's one of those new models like the previous one was. All right, folks, breaking news aside, we're getting back. We're getting back on track here because the show must go on. Start again. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show. Please feel free to introduce yourself once again. We're going to cut this as though nothing happened. Please introduce yourself, who you are, and folks who haven't heard from you before because you weren't on the show before.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so great to meet everyone. I'm Eric, co-founder and CEO of...
Oh, you went on mute, sorry.
My bad. So yeah, most recently, probably best known as the folks who make Bolt.new, which is a AI dev sandbox. Imagine a Claude or ChatGPT, but merged with an in-browser dev sandbox it's attached to. So you're not copying and pasting files. It can run all the commands, actually build fully functional, full stack websites just from prompting. And so Bolt's been a sensation. I think today is officially week 7 of this thing since we launched. Been on a heck of a tear. I've never seen anything like it. Anyone I've talked to has not seen the growth of, what we're seeing here on this thing. But we've gone from just 0 to a couple 100,000 people a week that are actively using Bolt.
Couple of 100,000 people. That's what you just said.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing to say, but I think just by traffic volume and by revenue, I know that with the inference partners that we use for some of this stuff, like we're in the top 10 or 20 customers by revenue volume at this point. it's explosive. This thing's probably one of the top 5 or 10 coding applications in the world just by volume of usage and revenue or whatever, which is unbelievable in 7 weeks, right? So, and we're like a less than 20 person team. So we've just been scrambling to just keep the lights on and match demand over here.
So with that, I want to say, just we appreciate your time with us here on the show, because I'm assuming that running this thing with a small team is nuts. For folks who like just listening to this, what can Bolt actually do? Can you like describe the paradigm of this new thing? Because I had a chat with you before, so like we met once before. Swix pulled us into the side chat, and the thing that I came out with is this: we're potentially in this like new paradigm, and I hope you remember this conversation. I would love to chat with you about this, but first describe what when folks, this is the URL bolt.new. When folks go in there, what can they actually do?
Yeah, an idea for any website or web app that you want to build. You go into the chat and you say, make me a landing page for my startup. We do XYZ, and you hit enter. And maybe a demo, I can show a demo if you want of it, right? Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, make me a landing page for my startup. We sell dog food to cats. I don't know.
Make me a landing page for my podcast. We have a weekly show about artificial intelligence.
There you go.
Okay. And then I send it.
Yep. And
That's all. That's all I do.
Yep.
Amazing. So
And-
I'm just like reading out to folks who are listening, and basically what I just described in Mistral happens, but on steroids, because I have my chat on the left now, and it started running and started creating initial files, updating package.json, dependencies installed, blah, blah, blah. And now on the right, I have something that looks like VS Code a little bit, or like a code editor with a bunch of files now that I don't know where it pulled on from. I don't know, the astroconfig, whatever. There's already like a bunch of files, and it just goes. I'm not even sure what's going on here, but like a bunch of files are just going.
I hope it works zero shot.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't, like the nice thing is you can tell it what errors happen or whatever. But yeah, for those who are not seeing it, it's basically imagine the interface of
Wow. Wait, hold on, Eric. I have to stop you. What the fuck just happened? I hope folks that are seeing this are appreciating what just happened. While Eric was talking, I was like, I got a full Tailwind website built with two. It's hard for me to describe. Is this the reaction that folks mostly get? I basically this is everything that I said. Make me a landing page for my podcast. We have a weekly show about artificial intelligence. I now have a full landing page with 2 tabs. It's scrolly thing. I have episode listings with listen now button that's like fully perfectly aligned with the play button. I have links for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. It has a nice background, gradient background. It's a Tailwind design, has a stay up to date form. All of this just happened. And you're saying I can keep going with this, right? I can ask it for iterations.
You can give it iterations. You can also tell it to deploy it, and it'll actually deploy it to build you a production build and deploy it onto a production Netlify site that you can actually add to your account and point a domain at and everything. But yeah, so you can do either. If you want to add more, you can prompt it. It'll keep iterating, or you can say, I deploy this. It'll deploy it onto a URL, and you keep rolling.
So we're actually gonna deploy this, so folks will see it. Now, I just ask it for deploy.
Yep. Yeah. There's a button at the top, or you can just tell it, hey, deploy this.
Wait, I want to say, call this Thursday. The show is called ThursdAI. So change the title and then deploy.
Yep.
And then we'll deploy.
Could we get it to search the web and insert the actual episodes from the homepage? Would that work?
Yeah, we don't have a crawling built in. We're going to add that. But if you actually have an RSS feed, you could say pull from the RSS feed and it'll just add that to the app. Or you could just copy. What I typically do is any web page where I want to exfiltrate something like this, I just copy and paste the text and say, here you go. Like, these are the episodes. Boom.
Oh, so you can just paste the RSS feed. And this uses, you said, Claude 3.5.
Yeah, this is using Sonnet 3.5 under the hood, and we're starting to use some other models as well for this stuff. But yeah, the design is beautiful. Right? It actually punches out stuff that looks good. It's not just like some basic. There's a lot of kind of previous gen stuff that's where it's one component library, Shadcyan or whatever have you. But like when you're building something for yourself, you want it to be like custom, like something that feels unique. And we've added in the good taste to the AI agent for.
Well, it's now deployed. That's it.
It's now deployed. So you can click to that link and open it up. I don't know what it's doing over there, but there you go.
What? Folks, this is quite incredible. I'm going to actually put this in the comment channel so you guys can click this and see. This is insane. Okay, Eric, we tested this live, and I can see the appeal. Talk to us about, okay, so you mentioned the stack. I want to hear about the Stackblitz kind of part of this as well, because I know some of this happens in like the web container part, whatever. Could you talk about this?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, my co-founder and I started Stackblitz like 7 years ago. And the entire reason, it wasn't for the first, in 2017, we started on it as a side project. In 2019, we incorporated and raised some money. But the original thing that was interesting to us that got us to start building the core technology here was the web did not have a way to build web applications built into it. And that's like very strange for the most ubiquitous platform in the world, that you wouldn't have a built-in way to actually build web apps. And that's, if you look at Windows, they have Visual Studio, you look at Mac, they have Xcode. The web does not have a built-in development environment you can use to build web apps. And there's things like Replit or Codespaces or Cloud9 that they're not actually using the web. When you go to their interface, they're spinning up a cloud VM, which means you have to pay money to use them. There's a lot of latency, et cetera. So it doesn't really it's not actually using the platform itself, which is important from a latency perspective, user experience perspective, cost perspective, et cetera. So there's this nerd instinct where this should be possible. You should be able to run an operating system in a browser tab and build production web apps, right? That was the origins of Stackblitz. And we'd actually seen this story play out with one of our friends, Dylan Field, on Figma 5 or 6 years earlier, where the key insight they had was that browsers had gotten powerful enough to run complicated design graphics software. And so the original pitch they did for their seed or their Series A or something was just a ball dropping into water with web powered by WebGL. They were like, this is possible. We can make a design tool. That was effectively the idea for Stackblitz is this is possible. You can put an operating system in a browser, bring development to the browser for the first time. To date, the Stackblitz product has been an IDE like VS Code. You come to stackblitz.com, there's a VS Code interface. You can spin up an environment. This thing boots up in milliseconds. And it's powered by this core technology we spent 3-4 years building before we even launched it, called Web Containers, which is we effectively wrote a operating system from scratch in WebAssembly. It clocks in at a couple of megabytes, boots in a couple hundred milliseconds, just crazy fast, and runs entirely within the browser security sandbox. And I think the big challenge that we had with developers is people are pretty used to their local environment. So finding a use case that brought them out of their local environment was difficult. But with this paradigm shift that's happened over the past 4 or 5 months, with AI code gen, this stuff's gotten really good to the point where you can come and write a prompt and it won't just do an edit, like a Copilot style, type ahead sort of thing. It can go and have this agentic workflow where it builds an entire app from scratch and you can keep iterating on it. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to pause here, and because you mentioned the keyword here, agentic. This is the stuff that the folks talk about. I'll ask, and then Yam, I know you have a few follow-ups here as well. What's the agentic approach here? Because there's a few tools that are competing in where you are, right? There's the V0 tools. You could say that maybe Cursor to some extent does some of the stuff for me, like it codes, maybe doesn't deploy. I love the deploy, absolutely. I use Netlify a lot in my previous career as well. So deploying is, I think, one of the missing pieces here that you guys connected, very absolutely incredible. What is the kind of the agentic approach here? What are some of the stuff that you can tell us that maybe you've learned that works for you that doesn't work elsewhere? Could you talk about the agentic approach and the agentic stuff?
Yeah, 100%. I think what's why Bolt has, I think over the past 7 weeks, just with the compounding week over week growth on any metric, basically, we've been looking backwards and going, okay, so what is this composed of? Why is this really working where for the other folks it isn't to this degree? And I think a lot of it comes down to the core technology we bet. Again, the origins of the company, this was a deep technology play. Stackblitz was, right? And we wrote our own operating system from scratch. And the reason we did that is dev environments are actually very fragile. For anyone who's a developer, there's just a million things that can and do go wrong that often have nothing to do with your code base. It's, React says I'm out of file watchers. It's not React. That's your OS. Just run out of file watchers. That's random. And so anyway, so there's a million things that can happen, but we actually write an OS from scratch that's purpose built for running reliable dev environments in a browser. It gives you a very reliable baseboard of the types of errors that can happen, which is important when you're having AI punch out code and execute it. Because these AI models can write anything. They can write absolutely anything. Any error can go wrong. So can you imagine if you're writing something locally, and if we try to run Bolt locally, and it says it's out of file watchers, I would bet that's an unsolved problem, I would say, in the AI agent space.
So
solving, the loop. It breaks the loop, right? Because what makes this magic is what you just felt right there when you typed in that prompt. You put something in and it worked. It worked just with no random errors that have to be solved around it, right?
Yeah.
Dev environments are so fragile. So if you're going to build a product experience around dev environments, you have to have clarity and confidence across the entire thing, which is at an operating system level, that what's going on. And if things do go wrong, you need to be able to accurately and reliably instrument every level of that operating system to exfiltrate the data, telemetry, and errors that are happening that can be fed into the agent to actually deal with it.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Bolt, it's people are trying to, the competitors to this, to what we're up to, are they're going and spinning up cloud VMs to run the actual code execution coming from these AI models or whatever. And the problem is that they're running into all of this stuff, but except, and what's worse about running on a cloud VM versus your local machine is if that machine gets borked, that thing, you ever flown a drone and then it went out of range and you're like, it's like that. When these,
You're like, hopefully the software has built-in features, safety features to get it come back. Eric, I want to get to Yam because we're a little bit over time, and apologies. This is me with the timing schedule. I want to get to Yam to ask you a few questions, and then we'll let you go and we'll finish up because like we're a little bit over time here.
You're totally good.
Yam, go ahead.
Man, I realized who you are too late after Alex started talking and muted me. Man, what you guys built is insane. Seriously. My only question is, okay, I get what you're saying about the OS and so on. Absolutely crazy, by the way. But my main question is, everybody is trying to build code generators, and then you guys win. It's zero-shot, crazy things. What is the secret? It's open source, so it's not that much of a secret. But from your intuition, how? I know people are using it, and it just generates out of the blue, zero-shot. Crazy UI.
Yeah.
How? What's the difference?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, as you can see in like our open source repo, we've got a pretty great system prompt. The latest models from Anthropic are the best in the world, right? We've also on Prod, we've got some additional multi-agent sort of stuff going on. But a lot of it, again, comes down to the code that these models output, if you can't execute them reliably, the experience is broken. It doesn't matter how good the code that came out is, if you can't actually run it reliably and debug it reliably, that to an end user using the product, this thing's broken and it sucks. They have no idea what part of the chain broke, but the execution part is something that every single person I've talked to, and this has been the story of our company, no one has understood the importance of and the very nuanced difficulties of doing this part of it. And so there's 5 years of innovation on that side of things that we've been doing that no one else, it hasn't been relevant until this moment in time where now people are like, oh crap, we got to figure out how to do this. But we've got this humming already. And the guy on our side who actually led the entire engineering work on that came from an ML AI background previously. And so we're able to connect the dots here in a way that I think it'll take a very long time for other folks maybe to get there. But that's so I think at a high level, it's this culmination of things that are leading to this kind of wow experience.
I want to connect the dots here because we love open source on the show. We obviously love tools as well. And this is like one heck of a tool, one-shotting like incredible things. Absolutely wild how many folks have built on this and shared examples and like adopting this, like hearing from you, the insane amount of users that you guys have adopted. Wolfram, you just posted something that I just want to like show to the folks as well. There's folks who are building with local LLMs, specifically with Qwen. So we had Jun Yang before you joined, Jun Yang from Qwen joined us on the stage here as well. There's like folks who are building local LLM with Bolt, Olama, and Qwen. And I don't know, Eric, have you guys like thought about this advance, or is this like the community adopting the tool? Could you like comment on like this use case angle of it?
Yeah, 100%. So this has been actually, we're going to have an announcement, I think, in the next week or two about this, but the open source world has been, we had no idea how any of this, that people were going to like Bolt, they're going to like the open source version. It seems like everyone, there's a lot to like on all of it from different segments. On the open source side, it's what seems to be happening is that the current benchmarks folks have been using, test suites, eval suites, whatever, are actually not representative of punching out real world code. And so this has been the tweet you have pulled up here was very interesting to me and our team because the open source version of Bolt is actually being used as a real world test bed now of the new models coming out. Because it's basically, I don't know if you're in PC gaming back in the 2000s where it's like, can it run Crysis? Yeah. It's Bolt becoming, because there's not a lot of good open source AI tools out there. Bolt is unbiased, but I think it's a pretty good one. And it's pretty real world. And so folks are loading in new models and going, okay, can this thing beat Sonic? Can it beat Qwen or whatever, right? And so we're going to be investing a good amount going forward here in the open source version, largely because it's actually turned into a test bed, frontier AI, tooling and testing, right? It's filling an important gap, I think, in the market for this, where how do you test this stuff if not for these kind of arbitrary benchmarks, right? So
So that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because like Qwen 2.5 Coder, for example, just came out last week, and we know for a fact it's like an incredible model. And running this locally on my Mac is now possible. And we all get excited. We have the Qwen folks here often, and using it in some productive way, not only by code completion via Cursor, for example, but also doing one-shotting incredible examples is dope. And I really hope that at least the deployment part will stay in there. So at least going to deployment from local would be preserved, and I'll still be able to go to Netlify. Eric, what is one question that you hope to answer here that I didn't ask you yet?
Good question.
What's one thing that we didn't cover that's like very important for you to convey here to the folks who are listening on ThursdAI?
I think we're just getting started. We're 7 weeks into this thing. We've been pretty flattered and floored by the support and the response, and we're really fired up about this. And so if you go check out our Twitter account or X account or whatever at Stackblitz, we're constantly posting updates and we're retweeting cool stuff folks are making. We also, Anthropic actually did a case study on both that was actually really good. So that's over. If you go to my Twitter handle, Eric Simons 40, I think that's like my pin thing right now. But anyways, we're taking a look at that. If you want to understand a bit more about what kind of maybe why Bolt is very unique, and I think why a lot of people are liking it, and the underpinnings technically of that, they did a really good job, I think, of capturing that. Yeah, I'd love to hear people's
the title of this, because you didn't mention the ARR once, and I'm going to do it for you. The title of this case study is $0 to $4 million ARR in 4 weeks, which is, if you guys have built companies or built in companies, this is insane. This is unbelievably insane. So I completely applaud you on your growth and the absolute like taking over a category. The thing that I wanted to get to is the fact that this feels like a new-ish category between no code and like low code-ish, whatever, when people can just talk to a thing and things happen, and then they can take it to production, to deployment. And I think that like it feels like you guys are getting to a good place in this category. It feels like you're not the only player. I know of some other ones as well. We'll definitely keep an eye on this. We're like deeply entrenched in like the LLM and the models that get released here on ThursdAI, but we'll love to keep folks up to date about the new tools that come out. And Bolt is definitely one that's super hot, and we wanted to let folks know about.
And open source.
And open source as well, which we love. We absolutely love. Definitely commend you on that. Eric, thank you so much for coming up. Really appreciate your time here, and I will definitely keep playing with Bolt and build cool things and tweet to you about them. So folks, you can find Eric at Eric Simons 40, and I added this to the show notes as well. And I think we have 1 or 2 more things to cover before we conclude the stream. Thank you, Eric, for coming up.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. All right, have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye.
And I think we will conclude with this. I think the one thing that I want to show is the Black Forest Labs. This is the last thing that we wanted to highlight. Black Forest Lab had a breaking news thing from today where they showed that they're releasing tools from AI art specifically. So these tools are not like they're common to the industry. Specifically, they released in state-of-the-art in-painting and out-painting models. Folks who are like into this, you should understand like how amazing this is, because usually what happens is the community fills these holes, and then maybe the model trainers are like coming up and they maybe release some tools. This is like the actual lab releasing those tools. In painting and out painting is very cool because you can take, for example, like a little bit of an image of an eye, for example, and then outpaint to a whole face. And this is very useful in many tools that use these models. Outpainting, in painting is when you like delete a part of the model, for example, you give them the mask, and then you like change parts of the image. In the website example that I'm showing right now, there's a neon sign that says burgers and beers, and you just paint over the burgers and ask it for coffee, and it says coffee and beers in the same exact neon style, which looks incredible. Like it's literally impossible to tell that this was not in the original kind of generation. It's like BFL, they know what they're doing. This is one of them. So this is Flux 0.1 fill. They also added the depth and canny models. Canny is conditioning. So basically you can condition an image generation based on the previous image outlines. This is what Canny models are. People who use AI art and use Comfy UI, for example, Canny all too well. So this is like very exciting for folks who are listening. Yeah, Alex, I know what you're talking about. Shut up. And they already go and download this into Comfy UI, because Canny released from Flux is like a big deal, because people like hack together other Canny models with this like generation. This is like a property for them. So Canny is basically taking this owl, for example, that I'm looking at, extracting the lines, the outlines for this owl, and generating other owls based on this exact owl's like stance and position. So this is great for poses, for example. If you have a human one and has like a specific pose. Kenny is great for that as well. And depth, they have a new model for depth extraction, and so you can generate a bunch of stuff within the same kind of depth. So depth and Kenny together creates like a beautiful way to change stylings for models. And the last thing they added is Redux, adapter that allows mixing and recreating input images in text prompts. So basically taking an image and saying, hey, give me this image, but with something else, or like a different style, for example. So slight variations, refining given images. So the examples that we're seeing is a person taking a selfie and then changing it to a flat vector, for example, or a Muppet, and it's basically the same person in the same setting. It's different from in painting because it just like changes that whole the whole outlook. Very cool from very cool from Back Forest Labs. Flux changed a bunch of these, released a bunch of these models. The model weights are available on Hugging Face, which is super cool, and the API is also supporting this as well. I think that's pretty much it what we wanted to cover. And then Suno obviously released V4. It's incredible, and I think that we'll finish the stream on I think a Suno song that I like blew my mind this week. Somebody wrote. Yes, somebody wrote this thing. I will show you guys. Okay. So as we're talking about, I will show and play. Can I play this? I don't know if I can play this one. We'll figure this out. Somebody said that the creative writing, as we said, the ChatGPT, this is like the best thing that ChatGPT, the new ChatGPT is good at, significantly good at. I saw this tweet from Kyle Shannon who said, the upgrade is insane. My test prompt for the last 2 years has been some version of write an Eminem style cipher. Cipher is like a way of doing rhymes in a way that Eminem does about quantum mechanics. I'm reading what he says. ChatGPT has always been the best at this, but no LLM has ever captured the sophisticated internal rhyming structures like Eminem does until now. And so basically there's this whole thing, and then he made it like go live with Suno. So what you guys are about to listen to is basically what I consider two exponential curves colliding in a sense. We have the LLM kind of area, but basically it just keeps happening. It keeps getting better and better and better and better. We also have the Suno one that just keeps improving with incredible speed to the point where these things just look absolutely insane. And so I just wanted to finish this stream for November 21st, and thank you all for coming. Thank you Junyang for hopping up. Thank you Nathan from Allen Institute for AI. Thank you Eric Simmons from Bolt, and obviously Nistan was here. He had to drop. Yam and Wolfram and everybody here who listens, who tunes in. We had over 2,000 people watching our stream, which is insane, folks. Absolutely remarkably insane. We have also over 100 folks, way more than 100 folks in the stream itself. We really appreciate all your time here and the community commenting and giving us feedback and questions and links to breaking news. And we'll finish with this just 2 minutes of colliding cipher that ChatGPT, the new ChatGPT wrote about quantum physics with insane rhyming structure in the style of Eminem and Suno V4 visualized. Wolfram, go ahead, please. And then we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I'm tangled with the beat, spooky action in the booth. Split the atom with a pattern, every bar's a burst of truth. Superposition in the mission, fusion, fusing my intentions. Parallel in every line, I'm a prism of dimensions. Multisyllabic antics, I'm manic with the semantics. My rhymes collide like particles, dynamic and gigantic. Oscillate and dominate, I'm weaving quantum states. Spit a verse and watch the multiverse reciprocate. I'm discreet like Planck's beat, energy in tight packets. When I rap, it's math and motion, flipping flows into fractals. E equals NC squared in every letter I write. My pen ignites like antimatter when it clashes with light. Quick as a flick of a wrist, I'm a lyrical catalyst. Atomically splitting the script, I'm equipped with the maddest wit. Flipping the tempo while benzos igniting the mental crescendo. Sending my syllables slicing through time like a sharp innuendo. Corner precision, I'm ripping the rhythm, I'm spitting in prisms. Infinite visions, I'm shifting dimensions with lyrical decisions.
Insane.
Accelerate, levitate, elevate thoughts in a turbulent spin. I'm the velocity ripping apart the facade that you're certain you're in. Time dilation and cadence, I stretch the seconds, I'm pacing. Heisenberg with the mic, uncertainty's the foundation. Observer effect in effect, the second I start to speak. Collapse reality's potential with every word that I tweak. Yo, my flow's a Fermion spinning in lyrical collisions. Every bar's a quark sparking a fusion of my visions. I'm a wave in a particle, unpredictable art. Entangled in the cipher, splitting atoms with my heart. From wormholes to portals, I'm immortal with the schemes. Through the fabric of this rap, I sow the threads of my dreams. Dark matter in my patterns unseen, but collide colossal. Black hole soul pulling rhythms through the gospel. Double the trouble, I'm stacking the rubble. My rhymes are combusting, speed and weaving. Believe it, I'm leaving your speakers erupting. I'm the equation of pacing, erasing the limits of sound. Taking the crown, breaking the bounds. I'm a force you can't slow down. Rapidly tapping the map of my mind. I define every pattern in motion. Bars are a bullet, I pull it and shoot it with ruthless devotion. I'm the ignition of friction, depicting a world that is vivid and bright. Fire and fury, I bury the track in the blaze at the speed of light. Shifting perspectives midline like quantum flips in my grind. Infinite chances to shine. I'm the master of space-time. Every rhyme's a singularity, collapsing the infinite. I'm the big bang slang, expanding my imprint limitless. So step into the quantum where the chaos aligns. My bars are entropic logic, redefining the divine. From the smallest of particles to the cosmos that we know. This is rap at its limit, quantum flow, let it glow.
With that, folks, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.